Which Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver should you be trying to acquire after that disastrous performance on Thursday Night Football? All that and more in this episode of the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Here are your hosts, Marcus Mosher and Kate Madjuk.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code, all in lowercase, LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Kate Madjuk. You can check her out on Twitter at Kate Madjuk. Kate, game one of the 2023 NFL season is in the books.
This was like, oh my gosh, Marcus, like having football back. Just put a little pep in my step. Today's Friday. It's Friday because we have football back, and I'm so excited. It was a good game, even though it was not necessarily the prettiest game. You know what? We have football back. We have Patrick Mahomes back. Hopefully, we have Travis Kelce back very soon. This is all good stuff, and there are a lot of interesting notes from week one, the season opener. Tell me what you're thinking, because we saw an absolutely disastrous performance from the Chiefs wide receivers. Like, what wide receivers? I don't know. I like would love for somebody from the Men in Black to come and just do that little mind eraser trick on me so I could forget everything that I saw from this Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver core yesterday. But you think one of these wide receivers is worth a buy.
Yes.
Who is it?
It's Kadarius Toney for me. Yeah. So let's start out with this. Kadarius Toney had a disastrous game. The worst game I think he'll ever have in his career. 5 targets, 1 catch for 1 yard. And actually that catch came on like a trick play, right in the red zone, which I actually like, right? It's clear that they were trying to get him involved, when they get close to the end zone. So that just remember that. The drop that led to the interception was a backbreaker for Kansas City. It let Detroit back in the game. He had a drop on 3rd down across the middle that would have been a big gain. But the reason why I'm buying him, Kate, is that I can at least explain why he struggled, right? He missed most of training camp. He just started practicing like a week ago. But I did like that Kansas City was using him. Even on the limited snaps that he played, he didn't play a handful of snaps. I believe it was less than 20 snaps. He got targeted 5 times, and they were high leverage targets, and they were targets that are going to produce fantasy points. We just heard all.
Though, Marcus, it wasn't that like they weren't like it wasn't that Patrick Mahomes and him were like on the a different.
It was all Tony's fault. It was Tony's fault.
It was
all of it.
All Tony's fault.
Yes.
This was not a situation where you think like, oh, Kadarius Toney, he missed some reps, like they need to get into a rhythm. Patrick Mahomes was in rhythm. Like
he was fine.
He was fine. He was placing the ball where he needed to place it. It was Kadarius Toney who had mental error after mental error. Yeah. Was it wasn't a brain injury. He was dealing with a knee injury. Like it wasn't a hands injury. It was a knee injury.
To me, it just looked like somebody who hadn't played football in a while. Like it just concentration drops, not knowing where
he hasn't played football a lot ever. That's the issue, Marcus. He comes in, right? Plays 16 offensive snaps. Let's look at the list of players who played more offensive snaps than Kadarius Toney. We had, let's see, rookie Rashee Rice, who I love. Richie James, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Skyy Moore, who did literally nothing.
We'll talk
Blake
about him.
Bell, too. Justin Watson.
This is what's encouraging to me about Kadarius Toney. And trust me, I'm not some big Kadarius Toney truther. We've talked about him all offseason. You said 16 snaps, right? 5 targets in 1 carry on 16 snaps. That just indicates to me like there's a plan to get him involved in the offense. And this was a horrendous day for him. I just feel comfortable with at least that role. Like I feel like they're going to try to keep him involved in this offense. Meanwhile, because we can tie this into the other receiver, Skyy Moore was somebody that we heard a lot of hype this summer. Skyy Moore played a ton of snaps, 3 targets in this game, 0 catches, just nothing, a goose egg. And that's concerning when you have Patrick Mahomes dropping back to throw, 40 something times. No Travis Kelce. Once Kelce gets into the lineup, what's Skyy Moore's role going to be on this team?
I think that's totally fair. I've never been like a huge Skyy Moore person. You were excited to see what he might be able to do with the potential, especially playing out of the slot with the departure of Juju Smith-Schuster. Here's my thing. I think Rashee Rice is the guy to buy. I don't think you could buy low on Kadarius Toney after an absolute disastrous performance. It's great that they continued to go back to him, but if this team gets literally anybody else, going, right? If they can get anybody else in rhythm, he played one more snap than Justin Ross. He was completely uninvolved. I get that he was involved on the plays that he played, which is great. We continue to see that when he's on the field, he gets targets, which is something we've seen throughout his entire career, which has been the stat that everybody holds on to when they keep holding on to this dynasty value. It hasn't mattered. Even if you're targeted, 5 times out of 16 total snaps, that's great. But I need you on the field more often, because if you have any of these mental errors, that means you're probably not going to be getting many more of those opportunities. And that is a concern for me. Rashee Rice, I think, gave you everything that you probably wanted from Kadarius Toney. And what I loved, Marcus, I've said this before, every time we've talked about Rashee Rice, my favorite thing about him coming out of college was his ability to befriend the quarterback and be available and make connections on scramble drills. And you saw it. His first NFL catch was a touchdown, and it came from Patrick Mahomes in a scramble drill. Play breaks down. He's looking for his guy. And guess what? Rashee Rice finds the soft spot. No man around, wide open touchdown. And I think that this is going to be something we see a lot with this 1-2 punch connection here in Kansas City. I think he's the guy to roster, if any of them. And I'm saying if any, because I'm not sure that we really want any of these receivers, but I am buying into Rashee Rice. I've been trying to tell y'all to buy into Rashee Rice, so hopefully you listen before that touchdown. I don't know that we're going to see his value increase exponentially based on one touchdown, but I do think he was the best wide receiver on the field last night, and I don't think it was particularly close.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And we've been saying this all summer long. Rashee Rice is the receiver that we want to own here. Again, on Dynasty League football, of the most recent batch of ADP that we have, Rashee Rice being drafted as wide receiver 53. Compare that to the other Chiefs receivers, where Kadarius Toney, wide receiver 51, Skyy Moore, wide receiver 46. I want Rashee Rice. But if I'm going out and getting another one of these receivers just to kind of bet on, I think you're going to have a lot of dynasty managers that are going to panic about Kadarius Toney and that are willing to give him away after that poor performance in a standalone game on national TV. I'm just saying, I won't be surprised as we get further removed from this injury if we see the snaps go up a little bit. I don't think he's going to be a full-time player or anything like that. But could he be somebody that sees 9 opportunities a game, maybe 7 targets and 2 carries? I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility at all.
Maybe.
You're just not in on Kadarius Toney, which is fine. You don't. I'm not trying to talk you into Kadarius Toney, but if it's between him or Skyy Moore for me, please give me Toney over Skyy Moore. I just don't see Skyy Moore being a thing here with Kansas City.
But you agree that the correct answer when you ask Kadarius Toney or Skyy Moore is actually Rashee Rice.
Yes.
Right?
Well, yes. It's always been Rashee Rice. Let's talk about.
It's always been you, Rashee.
It's always been Rashee. Let's talk about some of the more exciting players on the other side of the ball for the Detroit Lions. We will get to them next. This episode is brought to you by Nutrafol. Did you know that 80% of men will experience hair thinning in their lifetime? It's normal, but it doesn't have to be your fate. You can get ahead of thinning with Nutrafol. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement, clinically shown to improve your hair growth with visible thickness and visible scalp coverage. Go to Nutrafol.com/men to take their hair health wellness quiz. It'll help you identify the causes of your thinning hair, and Nutrafol will give you a personalized plan for better hair health through whole body wellness. Take the first step to visibly thicker, healthier hair. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com/men and enter promo code LOCKEDONNFL. Find out why over 4,000 healthcare professionals recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com/men, spelled Nutrafol.com/men, and enter promo code LOCKEDONNFL. Again, that is Nutrafol.com/men, promo code LOCKEDONNFL. All right, Kate, let's talk about the Lions side of the ball, which is far more fascinating to me. I want to start with Jahmyr Gibbs. I think if you are a Jahmyr Gibbs dynasty manager, you're excited but disappointed at the same time, because 7 carries for 42 yards, average 6 yards per carry. Also had 2 catches for 18 yards in the passing game. Like, you see the talent there, but he only played, I think, 25% of the offensive snaps for Detroit. That doesn't seem like enough to be an RB2, going forward at all.
Definitely not enough to be like excited about him as an RB2, but I do think, watching Jahmyr Gibbs, you have to be very, very excited about how much, explosiveness he ran the ball with. Like, every time he touched the ball, like there were a couple of key mistakes here. Like there was one point right around the goal line, could have had an easy walk-in touchdown, but like just seemed to get like his feet were running away from him a little bit, tripped and slid, and didn't score a touchdown. But he was about this close if his footwork would have just been a little bit more.
Yeah, he was close.
Like, I don't know what the word is. Like, he needed to calm down a little bit. Like, it just seemed like he like got ahead of himself. But he was about this close to scoring a touchdown. Like, he just looked far and away the better running back on the field. Looked so explosive. Even looked like, pretty elusive after contact. Like, looked strong through contact, which I think was a concern for me. Like, in terms of how he would translate to the next level when he's playing, some bigger opponents. Will he, have some of that same ability? I think he showed you everything you wanted. And this is like coming from me, who I do think, like, David Montgomery, the way that he came in and swooped and stole a touchdown yesterday, like, I think we're going to continue to see that. We saw a couple of nice runs from David Montgomery, even though he was generally pretty inefficient. I think he's going to be kind of a pain in the booty for Jahmyr Gibbs, but I do think, like, if you are, if from a talent perspective, he showed you everything you could possibly want to see in week 1. And this is just going to be a situation that requires a little bit of patience. But I mean, you have to, hold the fact that, he was just about, one step away from a walk-in touchdown if he had just planted his feet a little differently.
And that was my takeaway when I was watching the game with some friends yesterday. I said, just wait till we get on turf, right, with Jahmyr Gibbs, because that field looked so choppy yesterday. Once we get him on turf, he's going to look so explosive and so dynamic as a player. I'm okay here. I actually, last night for me overall was encouraging. I think the Lions wanted to win that game so badly, and with the way the game script was going, especially in the fourth quarter, it just made sense to kind of ride David Montgomery and his physical style. But we're going to get these games coming up where it's, 10 carries for 65 yards and a touchdown, and then 5 receptions for 45 yards and a score. Like, they're coming. You just have to be patient. Want to talk? Go ahead.
What about David Montgomery, though? Is there any intrigue based on the usage? Obviously, like I said, not an efficient showing from David Montgomery, but I do think that this team has kind of signaled that they're probably going to keep him involved more often than we'd probably like. 26 years old, drafted on average as RB30 right now in Dynasty League football startup drafts. Any thoughts on David Montgomery?
I just think he's going to be like a middling RB2 with a lot of touchdown potential. We saw last night, got all the goal line work, had a really nice goal line touchdown where he made a guy miss. I think he's somebody that's going to be, a threat to get 1,000 rushing yards and 12 plus touchdowns this year. Not going to give you anything in the passing game. So if you're in a full point PPR league, obviously you're going to knock his value a little bit. But yeah, I think he's a good but unspectacular RB2.
Some recent trades, David Montgomery for a 2024 second round pick.
That's fair.
David Montgomery for Mike White in a super flex and a 2024 second round pick.
Yeah, that's basically the same.
Yeah. I was trying. I was like, it's like the office thing. Like, what's the difference between these two pictures? They're the same picture.
They're the same
That's
picture.
exactly
Yeah.
what this was. David Montgomery for Elijah Moore.
I think I'll take Elijah Moore.
Trey Lance and David Montgomery for Nico Collins and Gerald Everett.
I'll take David Montgomery side there.
It sounds like you're leaning towards David Montgomery.
Yeah, I don't mind David Montgomery.
Okay.
I think he's somebody who's gonna just give you 13 to 14 points every week, and that it probably needs a touchdown to salvage his value. But it's going to be an offense that's in the red zone a lot and near the goal line a lot. So a good one. We saw this happen with Jamal Williams last year. I think he's Jamal Williams plus. But the guy that, listen, the star of the show today is not David Montgomery. It's not Jahmyr Gibbs. It's not Rashee Rice. It's our guy, Sam Laporta. Now, only 39 receiving yards. However, did catch all 5 of his targets. For a rookie tight end to basically play, I think it was like 75% of the snaps to get that target share in game 1. Oh, baby, I am all in on Sam Laporta.
Yeah, I think you've got to be very, very encouraged by that usage. Essentially out of the gate, just kind of utilized like as a wide receiver, basically ran the 3rd most routes on the team, only behind Amon-Ra St. Brown. Josh Reynolds ran 22 routes. That was more than Marvin Jones. There was a big tier break there. Between, then Sam Laporta, Marvin Jones, and then like Cully Freeman down at 9 routes run. Like that kind of involvement is super exciting. Caught all 5 of his targets. You love to see that. But 5 targets on 22 routes run, you're going to take that all day.
Yeah. I'm just keep moving him up and up in my dynasty rankings because I just love him so much. He just is such a good fit in this offense. He's such a good fit with Jared Goff. I think by the end of the year, he's somebody that's going to be a tight end 1 that you're going to want in your lineup every single week.
I could easily see that being the case. I think especially like I don't want to, put too much. I don't want to keep piling on like a situation with Jameson Williams, but I'm getting kind of concerned that Jameson Williams is going to turn into like this Kadarius Toney kind of situation where like health has been an issue. There's like some, not terrible off the field stuff by any stretch of the imagination, but it just feels like there's always some like distraction here with Jameson Williams. I could easily picture, him kind of being this guy that just doesn't live up to his potential. And I'm speaking probably way too prematurely here, but I think Sam Laporta could be a really big beneficiary of this opportunity in the offense if Jameson Williams doesn't turn into the Jameson Williams that the Lions thought they were drafting last year.
Yeah, I won't be surprised if it's, Sam Laporta and Jahmyr Gibbs are really like the number 2 and number 3 targets on this passing attack behind Amon-Ra St. Brown. And Jameson Williams ends up being the Marquez Valdes-Scantling for basically version of, that player for the Lions instead of the Chiefs. So we'll see. Long ways to go, but really encouraged by what we saw from Sam Laporta. Kate, we've got one more segment to go. It's our favorite segment of the week. It's Promotion Commotion. We're going to be talking about some guys to promote from your bench or maybe even the waiver wire into your starting lineups in week 1. We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform in North America. It is the easiest and the most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players including pros and sharks. All you have to do is pick more or less than on a player stat projection, 2 to 6 player stat projections, and watch the winnings roll in. I play PrizePicks a bunch. It's so much fun. It's so simple to play. I can make my picks in like 60 seconds or less. You get quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make PrizePicks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. It is, I can't tell you enough how easy it is. Or you just pick the more or less. That's all you have to do on a stat total. So, for example, you can pick more than 215 passing yards for Kenny Pickett this week, or less than 100 rushing yards for Christian McCaffrey. It's so easy to play. Again, all you have to do is go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use promo code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use promo code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We want to thank you for making us your first listen every day. The Locked On Ultimate NFL Season Preview is here. The 7-episode extravaganza brings opinions, analysis, and plenty of debate from all 32 of our Locked On NFL hosts, with added insights from our national experts. It's a can't-miss series before the season kicks off. Catch every episode on Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Kate, it's promotion commotion time. Who are some players that you're promoting from your bench into your starting lineup here in week 1?
This one's going to feel pretty ugly, Marcus, but I need to shout out the Panthers wide receiver core for all the wrong reasons. This is a very banged up Panthers wide receiver core. Not a good situation there in Carolina. Got Adam Thielen dealing with a hamstring issue. DJ Chark also dealing with a hamstring issue. And all of a sudden, we could have rookie Jonathan Mingo in line to potentially lead this team in targets. Now, bonus shout out to Hayden Hurst, who also, I think, especially if you maybe are like the Travis Kelce manager or a George Kittle manager who's a little bit worried. I don't think Hayden Hurst is the worst insurance policy, especially in full PPR formats. But I do think that there could be an interesting opportunity for volume. I'm not promising efficiency, but I think the target share could be there literally right out of the gate. Maybe we see another one of those rookie touchdowns like we did yesterday for Rashee Rice.
Yeah, I like it. I think that's a good call. Mine is Deion Jackson for the Indianapolis Colts. This one's gross, right? I understand he's not owned in a lot of leagues. We have no idea.
He's not Zach Moss, Marcus.
His name is not Zach Moss. You're correct. It's Deion Jackson. I just don't know about the status of Zach Moss yet, whether he's going to play or not. But we did see Deion Jackson start 2 games last year. In one of the games last year against Jacksonville, again, these are not spectacular numbers, but 12 carries for 42 yards and a touchdown. Did catch 10 passes for 79 yards. So that's over 100 total yards from scrimmage and a touchdown. In the other start against New England wasn't as good. 11 carries, 23 yards, 2 catches, 13 yards. I just think if you need somebody that you know is going to get some touches, that could potentially get some goal line work, I think Deion Jackson is a what the heck flex type of player this week.
I think that's totally fair. I think that, I think, again, I keep going back to Zach Moss. You do have to wait and see sort of what his status is. He's been limited in practice, but I do want to shout out, he's listed as the RB1 on the Colts depth chart. So I do think when healthy, he's probably the guy. But Deion Jackson listed number 2 on the depth chart. And I don't think this is going to be a terrible matchup to get somebody in your lineup. How about, another injured receiving core? We also have the Packers wide receivers, both dealing with injury. Romeo Doubs and Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson. Hello. Both of them are dealing with injuries right now. Neither of them practiced. I think so far this week is my latest update. Not super psyched about that. So what if we promoted Luke Musgrave into the starting lineup for week 1? How bold is it? And would it be foolish to trust a rookie tight end in our lineups this week. Given, this is not a great week for tight ends, obviously. Like Mark Andrews, I think he should be good to go. George Kittle should be good to go. But Travis Kelce managers, you might be in a pinch. And again, I think you could do worse than Luke Musgrave.
Yeah, I don't mind it at all. I mean, you're going with upside there, and he's had a great summer, so that's a good call. I got another tight end that I really like because again, you might have sat Travis Kelce last night, or you probably definitely sat Travis Kelce. Maybe you didn't play Noah Gray, and you're just looking for another tight end. Jake Ferguson owned in only 6% of ESPN leagues right now, getting the start at tight end for the Cowboys. The Giants have historically really struggled to cover tight ends against the Cowboys. And Ferguson had a good game against the Giants last year when he made a start, 3 catches for 57 yards. He's the full-time tight end now. The Cowboys have some offensive line issues going into this game, so maybe you'll see a lot of dump-off targets to Jake Ferguson. I think he's a really good player if you just need a 1 week fill-in as you're waiting for Travis Kelce, or if George Kittle is unable to go or is on a pitch count, or if you've got Mark Andrews, as you mentioned. Like, there's a lot going on at the tight end position this week. I think Jake Ferguson's a pretty good spot starter in week 1.
I like it. I'm all about me some Jake Ferguson. I think you know what? We gave a couple of picks at each position here. Let us know if you're bold enough to start any of these guys that you're promoting from your bench, because I do think I don't know, maybe we can help you win a week with one of these spot starts here. Let us know what you think of our promotion commotion picks for week 1.
Our favorite segment every single week. That is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dynasty your first listen of the day. Everydayers, we'll be back on Monday to break down all of the action. I can't wait. I am so excited. It's going to be so much fun. Go check out the podcast on YouTube. We post shows there every single day. We are free and available on all platforms. Go follow Kate on Twitter at Kate Majuk. I'm at Marcus _Mosher. Enjoy week 1. We'll see you right back here on Monday.